Let's start by looking at the word photosynthesis. Photo means light, and synthesis means to put something together. And that's exactly what happens. During photosynthesis, plants use the sun's energy to put together glucose, a type of sugar, from simpler chemicals. Here's an outline of how the process goes. First, plants collect the raw materials they need for photosynthesis. These are two common substances. Water is the first. The second is carbon dioxide. It's a common gas in the air around us. Their roots absorb the water plants need for photosynthesis. Roots are covered with tiny hair-like growths called root hairs. They absorb water from the soil. This is then transported to the plant's leaves, where it's used. Leaves are nature's food factory. They're where green plants carry on most of their photosynthesis. Here's a cross-section of a typical leaf as it looks through a microscope. Notice the tiny openings or pores on its underside. Called a stoma, each of these openings is a tiny door through which air and the carbon dioxide it contains enters leaves. Once they have water and carbon dioxide, leaves have the raw materials needed for photosynthesis. However, something else is required before the process can actually start. And that something is sunlight. That's because it's light from the sun that provides the energy for photosynthesis. Look carefully at leaves and you'll see how well they're suited to capture the sun's energy. Their thin shape allows sunlight to easily reach the cells where photosynthesis takes place. And here's the leaf's inside again. The small granules you see in its cells are called chloroplasts. They contain a complex green-colored chemical called chlorophyll. However, in this slide, the chloroplasts look blue because of the way in which it was prepared. It's chlorophyll that gives leaves, such as these giant water lilies, their characteristic green color. Chlorophyll also gives the green color to plants such as these cacti and this palo verde bush. Both live in sun-baked desert areas, and to reduce water loss, they grow few or no leaves. Instead, as their green color shows, they have chlorophyll in their trunks, stems, and branches, letting them carry on photosynthesis there. But regardless of where it is, when sunlight falls on chlorophyll, light energy is absorbed and a series of complex chemical reactions begins. These reactions split some of the carbon dioxide molecules plants take in into carbon and oxygen atoms. The same thing happens to some of the water molecules plants absorb. They're broken apart into hydrogen and oxygen atoms. Some of the resulting carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms then join together to make glucose, a kind of sugar. This glucose contains stored energy which came from the sun. Plants do different things with the glucose their photosynthesis produces. They use some of it right away as food to provide the energy they need to carry on their life processes. Plants can also change some of the sugar they make into starch and store it for later use. And here we see some of that stored energy. Whenever we dine on potatoes, yams, and similar foods, we're eating food which plants stored in their roots as starch to meet their future energy needs. Plants also store energy in their seeds, or as we sometimes call them, grains. Later, this stored food energy is used by the young plants that sprout from these seeds. We humans also benefit greatly from these energy-rich foods both by eating them ourselves and by feeding them to our animals.